All right, Reagan Dunn.
Hey,
Hey, buddy-o. Listen, the big news is you've got $20 billion of our tax dollars, and you're going to be a better steward of the money. I saw that the King County Council said, hey, let's spend another $500,000 to make sure that we don't just write checks to organizations that waste all of our money. It was you, I think it was in April when I spoke to you, because you're like, this DCHS, we spent like $1.5 billion on all these programs starting in 2021. And I think you at one point are like, well, put the brakes on this. Where's the money going? Or at least let's audit where it all went. Were you happy with what the audit turned out?
Well, I called for that audit like 3 different times before I finally got an auditor to do it, because I knew where there's smoke, there's fire. And then when the $1.6 billion, there was fraud, waste, and abuse, all kinds of shenanigans where the money was going. So no, I was deeply troubled. I hate it when I'm right, and I was on that one, and that's created a lot of pandemonium. But the good news is we passed legislation for best practices. Now the bad news is the agency that was in trouble is not doing anything good to try and implement those best practices.
Right. And just for the record, I think you started the request for the audit. It might have been like June, not last June, but the June before. You were like, hey, show us where the money is and just give us some idea. So when they did this audit, I think they only looked at like 11 or 9. They took a very small little chunk of it. And what they found was quite disturbing, that the money was just being wasted on a bunch of stuff. There was no follow-up. And you guys at King County were just, my theory was, this is 2021, 2022. Nobody wanted to say, hey, maybe we should see where the money's going, because we don't want to be accused of, the R word, which is both racist and Republican. They're interchangeable in the state of Washington. So they just simply kept writing the checks, but nobody bothered to check on this stuff. So what happens now with the audit that you're asking to be put in place?
Well, the good news is finally, after asking the state auditor to do it, she declined. The county auditor twice to do it. I finally had to get legislation to force the audit to be done. It came back with all this fraud. They only audited 2% of the $1.6 billion. If they had audited 98%, it would have been just a total disaster. So the legislation that I passed unanimously adopts best practices from around the country on how to spend the money. Now we've asked that the implementation of a better spending plan and accountability on those grants is done through a third party. It's the independent office of the ombudsman, who will be now making sure that that agency is complying with the new law that we passed to make sure that the money is transparent, it's spent in the right way according to county policies, best financial practices, and hopefully it'll get out the door in a cleaner, more effective way. Still, though, many of those grants are going to things that aren't going to make a difference in helping your average citizen in King County. A lot of that is just political patronage money. A lot of it's very, very directed special interest. And at a time when, affordability and costs are the key concern for King County and their voters, you got $1.8 billion annually in grants going out the door that are largely, in my opinion, wasted money.
Because part of it is not only just writing the check. If I were to hire somebody to come in and chop a bunch of wood, he's going to do 8 cords of wood for me. And I come home and I've written the check and no wood has been cut. Nothing has been stacked. I would say, well, I gave you the money. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. There's got to be a metrics to determine whether or not the money was well spent. It's one thing to actually see that the money's going out, the person's receiving it. But don't you have to have the metrics on the other side, Reagan, which is that you give it to this organization and they say they're going to reduce the number of kids that whatever, or kids that go to school or whatever. We're going to feed this number of people. They need to come back to you and say, look, you gave us, $100,000 and we were able to do X, Y, and Z with it, right? Because then you have to start to assess whether or not they're actually using the money effectively. Who makes that determination?
Well, so you're right. So first we got to make sure the money's actually going out the door legally, which it hasn't been doing. The next thing is, if it is going out the door legally, then how are we measuring the performance?
Yes.
I'm not talking about outputs like, oh, we housed 11,000 people in our homeless shelters this year. Not outputs, outcomes. How many people are you reducing in homelessness? The real question is, this is a good example, how many people are sleeping in the streets of Seattle? Not how many people did you put in your shelter. And so what we want to make sure is that the money is being used for programs that are working, not just working to bolster the size of the nonprofit and what they're doing, but rather solve the core problem that they are addressing, were set up originally to solve, which is, for example, homelessness and a lot of other emergency feeding programs and 100 other social safety net programs out there that matter to the citizens and the taxpayers are paying for.
Yeah, you've been in this job for a long time. Has it changed at all in all the years that you've been in there? You mentioned, the people, we'll do this for special interest. Do you ever sit there and think, man, it's getting worse, or is it getting better when people are writing checks to, various special interests that are looking, coming to the public trough and wanting $300,000 for this or that as the money goes flying out the door? Have you noticed, if you're checking the barometer on this thing, Reagan Dunn, are we spending more or spending less? Are you at King County better stewards of our money?
It's a great question, John. And the answer is I don't think we are. I think we're doing a worse job than we were a couple of decades ago when I started my public service in a variety of different roles. One of the biggest problems you have is the checks and balances within the system that used to exist a couple of decades ago, where there was actually a two-party system, where there was public dissent and we could argue back and forth about something being effective, has been largely swept aside. So it's mostly one-party rule. So you saw, for example, the governor in the state of Washington increased taxes by $9.5 billion in 2025 on their end. King County added 5 new taxes this year, if you weren't counting, 5 new taxes. There were no efforts at all across either the state or county governments to cut spending in any way. And so it's just more and more spending. And I've seen the metrics and numbers for 2 years from now. They're going to have to raise those taxes all over again because they're not cutting. We have got ourselves into a cycle where all of these pet programs by the majority party in power in Washington state, both at the county, city, and also at the state, they're largely funding programs that are political patronage. They're part of their court-based constituency. And by and large, we're not seeing better numbers. Look at homelessness, for example. We had by far the highest increase last year in homelessness of any state in the nation. Portland and Oregon was second, but we were the worst. We're not getting it done, and we're spending a lot more money to not get it done.
Think about the years when you had Kathy Lambert in there. That woman, you could call her at 2 a.m. She picked up, hello, what do you need me to do? She was in there all the time. You're right. The balance, if you look at most states across the United States, if they're 40, 60, wherever they are when it comes to Republican and Democrat, they hold each other accountable, right? I want to write this check because the Republicans are, they're not guiltless when it comes to also paying off to people, but if you have both parties sitting there, they both look at each other like, are you going to do that? Because I'm not going to do that. You don't do that. But the balance of it, if it's all in one party and there's nobody to do the checks, then you find that the things just run rampant. I think it's unfortunate for the taxpayers, but at the same time, those taxpayers are also voters, Reagan Dunn. So they look at it like, well, these are the people I wanted, so this is the government that they get.
Look at Minnesota, Minneapolis. It's the same political system over there. You're seeing some of that happen there. There's clearly, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of really bad spending. And so, you got to have some minority party. You got to have some dissent. You got to have some public debate on these issues, or one party will push through all kinds of stuff. And also you need a strong media. The fourth estate of government is very, very important within the process to shine the light of day. But boy, that audit sure got their attention and shifted, as you know, the paradigm of the county executive race and some of the council races, and we'll continue to get traction on that. And my goal is just hopefully that we spend our dollars much more wisely, that we make the trains run on time. I know it's not that exciting, and that we get our county employees back to work. And Gurmai Zahalai, the new exec, and I had a conversation just here the other day, and I think he's working in the direction of bringing county employees back, because they're working from home like 4 days a week, right? Still after the pandemic. We need them back in the office. You'll get a lot better result. The taxpayers will get more bang for their buck when county employees are in the office.
Yeah, what were you asking for? You wanted them back 3 days a week? Was that what it was?
Yeah, I know that seems like that's like a ridiculously low bar, but the amount of what I call bureaucratic pushback that I got on that is unlike anything else I have felt. It's personal. People are mad at me. I don't have any friends in the courthouse right now. Even my own personal staff didn't like it a little bit. But let me tell you something. Look, government, you got government, union protected jobs. You can't be fired. There's all these stovepipes within government. They're not coordinating, and that's why you absolutely have to have government employees working together in the office for collaboration for lots of different reasons, including making sure the downtown core has activity and businesses, and the lunch spots are full, and there's commercial activity, and that's another reason why we should be in the office downtown.
Is Bellevue looking forward to the exodus from Seattle from businesses?
It's so funny. I think it is a tale of two cities, and the economic and business climate in Bellevue is excellent, and they're building office space. And, you've got a quasi-socialist now mayor of Seattle. I think you'll continue to see an exodus of a lot of businesses going over there, including retail, because of the security situation. It's much better police department in Bellevue. So, I've always worried that they're going to kill the goose that lays the golden egg in Seattle, a truly international city. But Bellevue might come along and save all of us. And so we're going to continue to support business-friendly policies there as best we can, because that's all part of King County too, and actually part of my district.
You've been in this for how long? It's your fifth term, right? Yes, a long time. I remember Rob McKenna told me when I was on the city council of Sammamish, he said, you don't want to be the one standing there on the platform yelling at the train going by, Reagan Dunn. He said, because at that point, you're going to be that lone voice, and you really will feel like your time is not being well spent. Are you getting to the point where you are that guy on the platform yelling at Sound Transit without anyone on it going by?
Let me tell you something, John. You get better at these jobs.
Oh, you do? Is that right, Reagan Dunn? Okay, go ahead.
You get more effective at it after a while. I'm not on the platform, baby. I jumped on the back of that train. I'm running up on the rooftop, and I'm shooting holes in those cars that need to be fixed. And, I was born and raised in this state, in this county. My kids, fourth-generation family, live here. I'm not going to let King County go like Minneapolis and Detroit and some other places that have gone bad. I'm going to fight for it, and so I'm off the platform, baby. I'm riding the top.
Oh.
I'm riding the top of those cars.
I've seen
That's how we're doing it.
I've seen that scene with James Bond coming through the train there. What would your
duck for bridges, though?
Yes,
got a duck for bridges.
Yeah, look out for that. Take the shot. What do you think your mom would say about the current situation in Washington D.C. at this point? Would she would just be absolutely stymied by the complete and lack of basic civil conversations. She was there, and she served, and Slade Gordon was representing the state of Washington. And I said to Slade one time, why are things so bad now? He said, redistricting. When you could win with 70% and you didn't have to care about anybody else, you would get hard right and hard left. And that's why we are really at this impasse on so much.
Well, think about what the Congress has been doing lately. Oh, they spent all their time the last couple of months talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, that's great, but does that really move the ball forward in terms of improving the lives of Americans? I saw one of the committee chairs was talking about Hellfire missiles shooting at UFOs. Look, none of that stuff is going to help people's ordinary lives. I mean, you've got people that are really out there for the press release, for the clickbait. We need to do a better job of having statesmen and stateswomen out there working across the aisle, trying to find solutions, legislative solutions, funding solutions to keep this country the best country in the United States, in the world, which I think we are. And Congress needs to start to behave more effectively. And in the meantime, while they're not, local governments will pick up the slack, and state governments, and we'll just run things as best we can where the rubber meets the road. But a lot of elected leaders are more like the lowest common denominator. I think it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I'm going to hopefully put you on the spot on this one. I'm looking at added council ads. This is on top of the budget. $1.6 million for immigrant and refugee services, including $1 million for NWIRP. I don't know what that is. $250,000 for driver training and license assistance. What's the 1.6 million? Is this to illegal immigrants that have come into the country?
Yeah. So as you know, King County is an amnesty county. It's a sanctuary county, and of course, we have huge numbers of people coming in, and the minute when you pass a sanctuary county law, you're saying, hey, everybody from outside the country, and also your homeless population, come here because we'll give you things for free. We'll give you benefits. And it ends up diverting money that would normally go to roads and parks and bridges and your police into these programs. And it's just an unnecessary thing that is being done there. And it's not helpful. But yeah, there's a lot of money going for folks who aren't, from our community, who are coming in from out of the country, many of them unlawfully, many of them to take advantage of our generous homelessness policies. So a lot of frustration there, and we'll continue to fight that as well.
Well, Reagan Dunn, congratulations on your victory. I know you had a whole bunch of volunteers that were out there knocking on doors and making sure that you got a chance to serve for your 5th term, where you could thank everybody. I saw the piece where you thanked everybody that was, part of your successful campaign. So we appreciate that you're in there and you spoke to us, and I'm sure you send the best wishes for everybody for a holiday season.
I do. I'm honored to be reelected, and I'm honored to serve the public. And happy holidays for everybody. And John, you keep up the good work, my friend.
I do what I can. I do what I can, Reagan Dunn.